Hello, I'm your co-host, D.J.R. Stewart.
And I'm your co-host, Tommy D. Duncan III, otherwise known as TD3. Jimmy, it is the first week and the first Wednesday of May the 3rd, 2023. Jimmy, and if it's Wednesday night,
And certainly Black Men Speak. And with that being said, let's give a big shout out to Liquid for providing our theme music. And if you haven't already, please hit that like button to help with our numbers. If you haven't subscribed already, please hit that button. And then spread the word. If you're here watching us tonight, please bring a friend along with you. I'm sure they'll be just as entertained and informed as you are.
Jimmy, we have a slam-packed agenda this evening. We are going to be on it, Jimmy. We've had special guests
Pedal to
for
the metal, Tom.
last several weeks, Jimmy. And it is time to get Rock'em Sock'em Robot as we have got an exciting show for everyone this evening. Jimmy, what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow you to start because I've been moving so fast that guess what? You got on a jacket and I don't. Let me get my jacket and I will be right back.
Oh man, I've outdressed you tonight. That's rare.
I know it, Jimmy. I'm going to be right back.
So,
Go ahead and get
okay.
started.
Well, with that being said, guys, I do have a shameful plug we're going to start off with. I started a new business venture, and it's basically a small company that does asset. No, I'm going to say asset protection, not asset protection. It's asset recovery. Basically, sometimes we don't realize that we have monies out there from 401ks, from bank accounts, from deposits, security deposits that have been put down in apartments and utilities. But anyway, you have money out there, and sometimes you forget about it. I personally have a bad habit of when I close an account, I don't really close it. I just leave that institution, but I always leave $100 there in case I decide I want to come back. Well, my group of asset seekers, they found $400 for me. $100 at PNC Bank, Charles Schwab, Fidelity Investment, and there was another bank I can't think of. But anyway, and they just did a trial run for me just to see what they could find. And to my surprise, there was money out there that I had totally forgotten about. These accounts are so old that I hadn't thought about them in years. And they actually had them to go out and do a search on the missus, and they actually found some money for her. So if you think you may have, even if you don't, here's my URL to go try. Go to the website, enter in some basic information on how to contact you and a couple of previous addresses. And it's a free search, it doesn't cost you anything. And, my crew will go to work and they'll see if there's money out there that you haven't claimed. Um, and basically, there's about $49 billion in unclaimed assets being held by the government. And if you don't claim it over a certain period of time, they just confiscate, they keep it. So don't let that happen. Check today. Go out there today to the website and start your claim. Start the process at least. And if we find something for you, we'll let you know. If we don't, oh well, we'll let you know also. But at least you'll know.
Absolutely. So we want to thank everyone for joining us this evening, Jimmy. And
Got the jacket on, Tom. You feel better?
Man, I felt like I felt like I didn't have my underwear on, man.
Oh boy, okay. That's a little too graphic, a little too much information. We're not trying to picture that, Tom. You hosting the show without underwear on. So um, let's get started. I've got my shameful plug out of the way. And so, Tom, we're going to start off with some not so good news. We've had a couple of noticeable deaths here recently. I think we need to point out. And let's start with let's start with Willis Reed. How about that?
Willis Reed. For those of you who are sports fans, basketball fans in particular, you may remember the great Willis Reed. At least if you are an older millennial or at least Gen X, you probably know who Willis Reed was. But he was a great Knicks, probably the face of the Knicks over the last 50 years.
Yes.
And the reason that we said that is that he led the Knicks to the NBA championship. It's only two championships in the history of the league, I believe in 1970 and 1973. And Jimmy, we know him because,
Tom, I don't mean to cut you off. Let's we have a video clip, a short video clip. So let's let's play the clip and then we'll pick it up on the backside.
All right, that'll work. Let's go.
News out of the NBA, where Hall of Famer Willis Reed has died at the age of 80. Reed helped lead the Knicks to their only two championships in franchise history in 1970 and 1973 and was a 7-time All-Star. Reed spent his entire career with New York and had his number 19 jersey retired back in 1976. He ranked second in franchise history in rebounds and third all-time in scoring, trailing only Walt Clyde Frazier and Patrick Ewing.
Excellent, excellent.
And see, Tom, that's what I'm talking about. A player who stays with his team and to help them win a championship. He's not running behind someone else's skirt trying to stack the deck to win.
Yeah, Jimmy, and most of the folks who actually did watch basketball during that period of time, you know, he was in a big game and had a very, very bad leg injury, Jimmy, and they pretty much counted him out for the rest of the game. And he came back after halftime, a leg wrapped up, Jimmy. He came back and it completely inspired everyone at Madison Square Garden, and they ended up winning the championship that year.
Tom, they don't make them like that anymore.
They do not.
These players today, they get a little bit of pain and they're gone. They don't risk it. They don't chance it. I was just thinking of Chris Paul, and it's not the same thing bad about Chris Paul, but when your team needs you the most, you know, you pull up lame and have to leave the game and don't return. You know, so
I think Chris Paul's was a growing injury, and I've had one of those.
I know they're no fun, Tom, but you know what? It would have been a lot of inspiration to at least even attempt, even if they don't put you back in the game, to attempt to come back and be there to cheer on your team, man. So it just says a lot when your leader is willing to put it all on the line for the team.
Gotcha. Well, our condolences and our prayers to the Reed family. He is one of the greats in NBA history. And of course, he is a legend in New York Knicks lore. So our condolences and our prayers to his family. We also have another, for some of you who are sports fans and maybe
very tragic, Tom.
The great Tori Bowie, who was a former world and Olympic sprint champion, died at the tender age of 32.
Tom, when people die that young, I mean, it's more horrific than just death. 32 years old, she still had a lot of life in front of her, and to be taken out so early. But let's play her clip real quick, and then we'll pick it up on the backside.
Very nice.
Tom, I don't think you've announced a cause of death yet, but very young, very talented young lady died way too soon. And our hearts go out to her family and friends and those who loved her. She was well loved and received around the world for the kind of person she was. So
our prayers and condolences definitely to her family, her friends, her loved ones, and of course the entire track and field community. Our hearts are broken that a young lady, a bright star that we have lost. And so we definitely want to make sure that we provide our condolences to her and her family, Jimmy, for sure.
Yes. So, Tom, there's another subject matter we talked about a little bit last week, and we're going to revisit it today. This whole coaching thing. First of all, let's give congratulations to the Kings coach for getting Coach of the Year. We want to point that out. But we also had a new hire, I believe, down in Houston. Is that correct?
Ime Yudoka, the former head coach of the Boston Celtics. By the way, actually took them to a championship a couple years ago and he has now been hired by the not the New York, but the Houston Rockets as the coach and the new face of their franchise. And I think that this is an outstanding coach. I don't think anybody can take away anything in terms of his coaching ability. And you know what? The Rockets have fallen on some hard times over the last few years and have not really been in the hunt. They've lost a lot of players. And Jimmy, I think he's the type of guy that could definitely build some stability and restructure this enterprise for success in the future.
So, Tom, we have a clip of the owner bloviating, unfortunately. Just talking and talking. We do have a small clip. I wanted to hear more from the coach himself. But, Tom, you know my feeling. I hope that the brother gets a chance.
Yes.
That you have to rebuild that team. That takes years. And you got to do it through the draft and do some free agency. They blew the team up, Tom. They had Harding there and had the most success. You're competing for championships, and then you blow it up. And probably worse than what the our owner have done with the Mavs. But anyway, let's look at the Houston owner bloviate for a minute, and we'll pick it up on the backside of the video.
We're making progress. Thanks everybody for being here today. This is an exciting day for myself, the Houston Rockets, and all of our fans. And I truly, it's an exciting day. First off, 3 years ago, which was very painful, Rafe and Patrick and other people in basketball ops came to me and said, we're going to make one of those tough basketball decisions because we know you want to win a championship and we don't want to be mediocre. And basketball is unlike other sports, is that you seem to be up here or down there and you don't want to be in the middle. And once you get in the middle, you seem to be stuck there for many years.
So anyway, Tom, he spoke for another 30 minutes, and still didn't hear the coach speak. But I just hope that they give the brother a chance, man. And then you put a serious effort in rebuilding. If you want to win a championship, you need to get young talent in there. You need to teach them how to play basketball at the NBA level. And Tom, you have to work really hard. I mean, you have to have players, not like these pampered players that we have here in Dallas, who don't want to die for balls, don't want to be injured, don't want to play hard. I look at teams like Denver. I look at teams that have had some success in the playoffs, the Kings, the Grizzlies, even the Heat, Boston, New York, Philly. I mean, these teams have players, man, that don't mind putting it on the line. And we're going to talk about one of those players here soon when we get to our sports segment. But these teams are showing you what it takes to win and how you have to put it all on the line, Tom. And you can't be a wimp, a simp, or you can't be lazy, and you can't be pampered and want to win championships. It just doesn't work that way. So the team that works the hardest, and in the end, Tom, we may see Denver win this championship. It's not out of reach that they can end up winning. And I'm amazed that their center, who's won 2 MVPs, which that amazes me also, he does not look like a chiseled basketball guy, Tom. He looks a little on the soft side, but he's very talented and he's the heart of his team and he plays hard. And he gets results. Versus our doughboy superstar here in Dallas. He scores well, Tom, but he plays no defense and he has no hustle and no rebounding.
Yeah, Jimmy, it's going to be a interesting 3 years or so with this team to see what he's able to do. I mean, unlike some other teams that have a lot of talent, but they're one step away from maybe getting to the next level. What we've seen in sports, whether we're talking about basketball, football, soccer, or whatever the case is, in order to get to that second alert, I mean, you have talent. Talent can get you to maybe the first level, but once you get to that second level, third level, maybe a conference championship, you got to have coaching, superior coaching. You're gonna have
coaching does matter.
You have to build character, and that is the difference between good teams and great teams and championship teams. And we're definitely hoping that Mr. Yudoka can build character and can build a platform with the Rockets team that can take them to the next level. The other thing, Jimmy, that we have to talk about, and we talk about this all the time, we've reported on this before, that the NBA unlike some other leagues that we'll leave nameless.
No, we're not going to leave names this time. NFL, baseball.
About 50% of the coaches in the NBA are now, I believe, African American. I want to say somewhere in the 70% range of the players are African American, and the NBA has really done a much better job of hiring black coaches that are a reflection of the players that are on the team, unlike the NFL.
And we're certainly not advocating hiring by color. I mean,
No,
this is not a case, but
we're not advocating that. But every other league advocates that.
Every other team.
We do
advocate giving people a fair chance to compete for the job and hiring the most qualified people that you can find. And if the NBA can do it, certainly the NFL can do it, Tom. And you can't tell me that there are not more qualified folks in the works, in the pipeline, that can become NFL coaches.
Well, it remains to be seen.
Well, yes. So Tom may not say anything because he doesn't like stirring the pot too much. I don't care. So I'm calling the NFL out. Y'all could take a page, borrow a page from the NBA, and get some tips on how to do a better job at promoting from within and giving everyone a chance, a fair shot. And certainly, Tom, when you're hiring people who are sportscasters with no coaching experience over people who are coordinators, offense and defense, who have coaching experience, and something's wrong here.
Yeah, that is true, Jimmy. And what we will do is continue to push. You don't get anything, Jimmy, in life when it comes to competitive sports, when it comes to economy, when it comes to power, Jimmy, is not given, it's taken. So at the end of the day, until you use your political and economic leverage, your social leverage in order to get things in life, you can just keep on waiting. And so we, again, want to applaud the NBA in terms of at least it seemingly making an effort to give more coaches an opportunity to coach and become general managers in their league. And we will continue to keep our eye on it.
Well, Tom, since we are talking about the NBA, that'll be a good segue to talk about a few NBA players.
And why don't we do this? But before we do that, I do want to acknowledge a couple of folks that we have on the chat line. It looks like we have Ms. Dee Bowman, who has joined us. We want to thank you for joining us and greetings. Also, we have Brother Frederick V. Roberts, Esquire. We want to thank you for joining us and supporting us. And then, of course, we have Uncle Asar Kabulon, out of the Austin area as well, who is supporting us as well. So we want to thank you all. I think Dee Bowman is in Atlanta. Brother Roberts is in the greatest place in the world, Prairie View, Texas.
For some reason, the chat window is not showing up for me. So, Tom, you're going to have to manage that and keep an eye on it tonight.
No problem. No problem whatsoever. So let's go to our other stories, Jimmy.
Okay, let's talk about NBA, a few NBA players since we were just coming off the NBA story. Good segue.
And, Jimmy, one thing that we have done in the past that we're going to integrate into what we're doing during this segment is typically the first Wednesday of every month. We would kind of talk about some things in terms of providing advice and counsel to young black men.
We do have a man tip, Black Men Speak man tip for our young men today. We will get to that. We could do it now, Tom, or we can cover sports now.
What I'd like to do is to integrate our conversation about what we're going to talk about in sports and in NBA and what our young men and the parents who are raising them can learn from what's happening in the NBA. Not having to do with the NBA, we'll use it as a platform, but really about life.
Well, here's your Black Men Speak man tip for our young men out there. So let's jump into it and get started.
All right, Jimmy. For those of you, you don't have to be a sports fan, but some of you may have heard we've just gotten through the first round of the NBA playoffs. We had 16 teams playing, and out of those 16 teams, we've got 8 that are coming out. We had the Miami Heat, who beat the Milwaukee Bucks, Golden State Warriors, who beat the Sacramento Kings, the Lakers beat the Memphis Grizzlies, the Knicks beat the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Boston Celtics beat Atlanta, the Denver Nuggets beat the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Phoenix Suns beat the Clippers. The Sixers, Philadelphia, beat the New Jersey Nets. But there are a couple of stories that we want to highlight coming out of that. There was a very interesting interview, Jimmy, by Yannis Antetokounmpo of the Milwaukee Bucks, when he was asked during an interview whether he thought that their season was a failure. We're going to talk about him. We're going to talk a little bit about what happened with Dillon Brooks of the Memphis Grizzlies, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the great Steph Curry as well.
Okay.
So, which do you want to start? I don't know if we have a video tonight.
Not of Giannis, but so let's jump into it. So this is a former MVP, former champion. And I guess the expectation and the bar is high that once you've competed at that level of time, your fans will always expect that you will be competing at that level. So I'm pretty sure they took it hard to be bounced out in the first round.
Well, Jimmy, this is also the context that we're looking at this. You know, there were high expectations. Mm-hmm. They were the number one seed, not just in the Eastern Conference, but in the entire league. They had the best record, the entire league. And
I thought the Kings had the best record.
No, it was actually the Milwaukee Bucks who had the best record in the league. And they played the number 8 seed as a result, because the best team plays I don't want to call it the worst team, but the number 1 seed plays the number 8 seed, the number 2, number 7. And so the Milwaukee Bucks, the number 1 seed, played the Miami Heat, who barely got into the playoffs themselves. And they literally had to play in and win a game to get in. And they ended up getting bounced, not only in the first round, Jimmy, but what happened to them is what we call a gentleman's sweep. You have to win the best 4 games out of 7. They won 5, and what they call an absolute sweep is if a team beats a team 4 games in a row and they just get bounced.
Right.
Well, they won 1 game, and a gentleman's sweep means that we'll give you a game. We don't want to make you look too bad. But this was the number 1 seeded team in the league, and they got beat by the Miami Heat, vis-a-vis Jimmy Butler, who was a beast. And they had an interview with Yannis, and they asked him if they thought that the season was a failure because they got beat in the first round.
And his response?
He stepped back. He guarded his words very carefully. And he says, you asked us the same question. This particular reporter asked him the same question last year, and he was very strategic, yet guarded about his response. And it's like, you're a reporter, and if you don't get a raise every year, do you call that a failure if you don't get a raise? In a particular year as a reporter, it's like Michael Jordan won 6 championships. So you're trying to tell me all those years he didn't win a championship, he was a failure? And so he was pushing back a little bit, but also sending a message as to the fact that they didn't win a championship. And by the way, they were the number 1 seed, made that season a failure.
Right. So, Tom, I want to point something out. This is a difference with character. The Miami Heat played hard down the stretch, put it out on the limb. They had to win some games to get into that final spot in the playoffs. So, and then once they got into the playoffs, they won 4 out of 5 against the number 1 seed in the NBA. Now, contrast that with our Dallas Mavericks here locally, who tanked several games down the stretch because they didn't want to get into the playoff as an 8th seed, didn't think they were going to win if they got into the playoffs, and didn't want to give up. I think they have a draft pick, a number 1 draft pick, that they forfeit to another team doing a trade if they were to get into the playoff. This is how cowardly the Dallas Mavs, Mark Cuban, and everyone who runs that organization, and to include the coach. So I'm very happy that the Miami Heat played hard, got into the playoff. This just goes to show that, like a roommate of mine when I was in college would always tell me, because he was from the streets, so he had to work hard, and he always said, you college boys, I have it easy because y'all went to the right schools, y'all know everything, versus me, I have to catch up. So he was in the library at night studying. But he always said, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work very hard. And talent does not work very hard here in Dallas, which is why they're sitting on the sideline. But they work very hard and down in Miami time to get to where they are. And then it showed once they got into the play. Once you get to the playoff, anything can happen. There are no guarantees that the number 1 team is going to beat the number 8 team. That's if it was guaranteed, then we wouldn't have to play the playoffs. So the challenge is, if you get to the playoff, you're a winner. That should be your goal.
And let's not get off script. And let's kind of manage this conversation as to the message that it sends to young people out there, especially
the message is, Tom, is that that the winning is giving it your all. It's not necessarily getting to the finish line. Where you come, what place you come when you cross the finish line is not the overall goal. The overall goal is to compete and do it in an honorable way, and be proud of your effort. The Milwaukee Bucks have nothing to be ashamed of. They went out, they played honorably, they played hard. They wanted to win, Tom. So that makes them a winner right there, just in and of itself. The fact that another team outplayed you and played harder, got a few more calls, a few lucky bounces in the end. We're not talking about that many plays during a game that makes a difference between winning and losing. And so the Heat just had a few more of those plays than Milwaukee. They got a few more rebounds. They made a few more shots. They got a few more hustle balls or 50-50 balls. And so in the end, they won. It was not a fluke, because 4 games out of 5 is not a fluke. And that clearly shows that for those 4 games that the Heat won, they were clearly the better team.
Yeah, Jimmy, I think that, you bring up some very salient points. And the one thing that we want to send is that, everybody has aspirations. I believe there are 32 teams in the NBA. Everybody's goal is to win a championship. There's only one team that's actually going to win.
True.
And the challenge then becomes, if you have a great record, the best record, and you don't win, the question is whether you're a failure or not. And depending on who you're talking to, and I've heard both sides of this equation, everybody has a different opinion. The question is, to your point, Jimmy, did you do your best? Did you give your best? Did you prepare as you should have? And then I think that answers the question, because, Jimmy, we're competing against the other team in competitive sports, but the most important thing is we're also competing against ourselves. Are we prepared? Are we doing the best? Did we do what we needed to do and give absolute maximum effort? If you do that, I don't think that there's anything that you can do.
Oh, then you're a winner, Tom. If you do those things, you are a winner. And so you let the chips fall, they fall. But if you do those things, you're a winner. So that's my 2-cent opinion on that. And like I said, the Milwaukee Bucks and the fans of the Milwaukee Bucks have nothing to be ashamed of. They should not consider their effort a failure, because they went out there, they put it on the line, they played hard. So that's all you can ask of your team.
Now, going to another personality, Dillon Brooks for the Memphis Grizzlies. And by the way, they were not the number 1 seed. I believe they were the number 3 seed in the Western Conference, and they ended up losing to the Los Angeles Lakers. But there was a lot of chatter during their series, and Dillon Brooks is kind of said some things out there to the media about LeBron James poking the bear, so to speak, and he kind of got a little pie in his face afterwards, Jimmy, because he was doing a little trash talk, and LeBron didn't really come back at him in terms of what was being said on the mic, but he ended up playing his own game, and the Lakers ended up winning the game. And interestingly enough, Jimmy, we just found out in the last day or two that it doesn't look like the Memphis Grizzlies are going to bring.
They're not going to re-sign him, Tom.
Exactly. They're not going to re-sign him. It is not. This is the way I see it. Dillon Brooks is not the marquee player on this team. It is Ja Morant. But interestingly enough, Ja Morant made some comments during an interview before this series going into the playoffs as to who he was really worried about. And he said he didn't really have any worries about anybody in the West. He was concerned about the Boston Celtics.
Tom, that, you know what? That doesn't bother me at all, to be cocky like that. The only thing, though, if you're going to talk the talk, man, you got to be willing to walk afterwards. And it's probably not a good strategy to poke the bear, but you have to. If you think you can get inside the bear's head, Tom, and get him off his game just a little bit, you have some players who, some of the biggest trash talkers in the league, Michael Jordan. I've seen interviews. Larry Bird was one of the probably the 2 biggest, Michael Jordan and Larry Bird. But they told me Larry Bird, Tom, was the coldest trash talker because he would tell you, I'm getting ready to get the ball. I'm going in that corner. I'm going to shoot a three. And there's nothing you can do to stop it. And then he would get the ball, go in the corner, shoot a three right there in your face. And there's nothing you could do about it. That he was going to, and if you put, that he would get highly offended when teams would put a white player on him to guard him. That if you don't put your best player on me, then he would be insulted, Tom. And he would talk all kind of crap all night long, every play. And so, yeah, some of the greatest players. Now, I don't think Magic Johnson was that big of a trash talker, but those two are two of the biggest stars in the NBA, and two of the biggest trash talkers. But here's the difference, though, Tom. Larry Bird, Michael Jordan could walk the walk. They could back it up. So they're not just talking trash and getting in your head. They can also get on the court and back it up. So if you're going to poke the bear and talk a little trash, man, be ready to go out there.
Dillon Brooks is not one of the best players. He is not a top 50 player. He is not a top 100 player. And he's trying to poke a bear that is considered by some to be the greatest player in the history of the NBA. I would not say the very best in the history of the NBA. I would say at least a number 2 or 3. But when you poke
you're very generous, Tom.
You had better be ready. And I understand but you're trying to get into a head of somebody who has probably what is considered to be the highest IQ in basketball, and you really think you're going to get inside of his head? Bruh, you better just get to your game and make sure that you try to limit his shots. Do your trash talking on the field.
Yeah,
and
LeBron gets my 5th spot for the greatest of all time. So you're very generous to put him in the top 1 or 2.
I said top, maybe top 3, and I said talking to other people, not myself. That's talking to some people. All I'm saying, Jimmy, is that for those of you, whether you're talking about in sports,
but he's certainly one of the greatest of this era.
Yes.
So I'll give him that.
This era for sure.
But until he gets 6 rings, I'll certainly not. And I'm not even a big Jordan fan. I don't even like Chicago. I didn't like him back in the day when he was playing. I was a big Laker fan back then, and and to show you how much I dislike LeBron, I'm not a Laker fan now because he's on the Lakers. And I'm not just hating against the brother. I mean, I'll give him his due, but I'll put him at number 5, maybe number 6. I can certainly name off 4 of the players that greatest of all time that should be in front of him.
Okay,
but yeah, Tom, you don't poke.
I'm with you, Jimmy, because off the top, what I'm thinking, MJ, Bill Russell, Magic, Kareem,
Oscar
Robinson. Off the top, those are 5 right there.
Yeah, no, that's why I'd say like 5 or 6.
Exactly.
So I think, and certainly during the era when teams play much tougher basketball, the Bill Russell era and Chamberlain.
And honestly, Jimmy, I think that if we add the old ABA, I've got to put Dr. J up there real close.
Yes.
We don't count the ABA championship.
We don't. So, you can even make a claim for Dr. J being included in that group also. And then, for honorable mention, I mean, you can, Bird should certainly be mentioned in there, even though he only had 3 titles. The power forward center for San Antonio, I can't think of the brother.
Jimmy, what about Hakeem?
Yeah, it came down with what he did down in Houston. So there are some honorable mentions that are right there, in that 5 to 10 range that should be mentioned also. So, just to be in the top 10 and being mentioned in that group is a great honor, no matter where you're placed. But it certainly kind of depends on what era that you're playing in. So, but we'll give LeBron his due. But yeah, you don't poke the bear, Tom.
No, not that bear. Not the grizzly bear. Maybe the koala bear, but not the grizzly bear.
The koala bear, okay, but not the grizzly bear.
Not the grizzly bear. And we want to welcome Mr. V. Vincent Stokes for joining us online. We want to welcome Brother Gregory Harrington online as well. We want to thank you for joining us. And let's get to Steph Curry.
Okay.
And what we can learn from Steph Curry and the message that we can share with our young men and the parents who are raising our young men about
what noteworthy thing that Curry do except get his team to the second round?
He's made history. He is in this last game, Game 7.
50 points.
50 points, which is the most points scored in a Game 7, bar none, by any player in NBA history. And also, what I did not know, Jimmy, is that during his era, he has the highest percentage of series wins of any player, including the great MJ. More percentage wins of series. I want to say it's 82. And that is higher than Magic, higher than MJ.
Tom, they've been it seems like they've been in the championship every year. They won 4. So they've played a lot of basketball. But Tom, this guy, and I was cheering for the Kings because I'm just sick of the Golden State. But this guy puts up some incredible shots.
Yes.
I mean, it's like surely he makes it seem so effortless, and you're thinking, okay, he made that shot. That can't be a skilled shot. That had to be luck. But he puts these shots up, Tom, over and over and over. So you can't have that much luck.
No.
Over a long history of your career of making those kind of shots. This guy can shoot from anywhere on the floor.
He has changed the game. Steph Curry is 6'2", not the fastest guy on the court usually. He's obviously not considered coming out of Davidson.
Came out of Davidson University.
As probably someone that everybody had. They knew he was talented, but given his size,
right, he was undersized.
His skill level, given his speed, you couldn't compare him to a Ja Morant. I mean, when you look at the skill level of a Ja Morant, but Steph Curry's basketball IQ, his level of commitment to the game, his level of commitment to the team, the number of hours that he puts in to developing and grooming himself, not the fastest, not the most talented, etc. Jimmy, it's just amazing what he's done. And those early years were tough. They lost a lot.
Tom, they were tough, and there was some doubt by the Golden State management whether he was tough enough to actually play because he had some injuries early on.
Yes.
But he's an assassin, Tom. I mean, this guy could just, even being guarded. I mean, I've seen teams put some really tough defense on this guy to get the ball out of his hand, and it doesn't take much, just a little bit of a crack. And, he's launching the ball from 30 feet away. And you're like, okay, it's just a lucky shot. He just tossed. But this guy shoots with so much skill, Tom. It's amazing to watch him play. So
the message is, Jimmy, he is totally committed to being the absolute best, committed to the process. He is humble. Now he does some trash talk on the court.
Okay, well, Tom, once again, he can walk the walk.
Yes,
so he can say whatever he wants to say because he can walk it.
He is committed to being the absolute best Steph Curry. He has committed tens of thousands of hours. For him to be able to make the types of shots, how does he do that type of stuff? You know how many weird, awkward, half-court, crazy shots that he has to practice.
Yeah, and he practiced those shots. It's not like, he actually practiced those shots, making those shots, Tom. Tom, we're going to now move on. Yes, we got to keep
moving. And we want to I think we have a couple of more guests. We have Ms. Tanya Hall and we have Mr. Edward Willis online. Edward Willis, Steph once made 101 straight three-point shots. That's absolutely insane.
That is insane.
So let's go ahead and move on because we are.
So Tom, we have before we forget, we do have an announcement to make. There is a Mother's Day event.
Yes.
On Zoom that's coming up, and for those who do, we have the link that we can post for the event.
We don't have the link, but we do have the Zoom information. Jimmy, one of our panelists, Ms. Faye Fleming, who I'm not exactly sure if hopefully she is on tonight, but she is actually going to be hosting Dear Mama, Poetry and Words Celebrating Mothers. And this is for you brothers and fathers and sons and daughters out there. Mother's Day is coming up in just a couple of weekends, so make sure you get your stuff ready. We have the Zoom information on the bottom in the lower left-hand corner for those of you who want to honor their mothers. And this is on May the 6th. May the 6th. So this is coming up this upcoming weekend.
So if you can and you're interested, please check it out. She has I looked at the list of panelists, Tom. She really has some talented people that are going to be there reciting their poetry. So if you're into poetry, even if you're not, it's great to go check it out. So there's the information. So Tom, let's in our last 20 minutes here that we have or so, we do have a couple more stories we need to get to. These are on the legal front. One of the officers, another officer who's
Yes.
involved in the killing of Floyd, was I think he was convicted, but you said he was not sentenced.
Yes,
Is-
he has.
was he found guilty, or did he just simply accepting a plea?
He has been found guilty,
Okay.
Jimmy. There was a judge. So the former Minneapolis police officer who stopped bystanders. Of course, we're not talking about Derek Chauvin, but he was the gentleman who stopped the bystanders from intervening as Derek Chauvin was kneeling on George Floyd's neck, has been found guilty of aiding and abetting in a second-degree manslaughter case. And so this was just ruled on May the 1st by Judge Peter Cahill, who handed down the guilty verdict to ex-officer Tal Thale, who actively encouraged and abetted, obviously, to the murder of George Floyd. So this is another domino to fall. This has been 2020.
Tom. Unfortunately, it's going to be a light domino. Because actually I'm thinking about Wisconsin, but we had another case that was similar. I'm thinking that the sentencing laws in Minnesota are just as wacky sometimes, but aiding and abetting a second-degree manslaughter case, this officer will be, I doubt he'd do more than 12 months in prison, and someone is dead. So, but anyway, a little justice is better than no justice.
Yeah, because we unfortunately see too many cases where our young men, our young women, our fathers, our mothers are murdered, and no one is held accountable.
Yeah, Tom. Like last week, we talked about the officer who was just released. She's basically had a 3-year sentence, and she only served the half of that. She's been allowed to serve the other half at her family's ranch farm not in Wisconsin, but in Oregon. So she's on the house arrest for 18 months. This is how she gets to serve her sentence. So, Tom, overall advice, do what you can not to let things escalate with the law officers, because, even if you end up dead, there's very little justice that's going to be issued out to former police officers. They may lose their job. They may serve a little time in jail, but you're dead. Your life ends, but they can recover from theirs while you're dead. So
exactly.
So black men speak advice. Yeah, don't let things escalate with law enforcement.
And also on another case that we're keeping an eye on, Jimmy, and this is the case of the young man, the 16-year-old young man, Ralph Yarl, who was shot twice by an 84-year-old man in Kansas City. It looks like there are a couple of things that are going on here. What we just found out within the last day or so is that the attorney for Andrew Lester, the 84-year-old white homeowner who is accused of shooting Ralph Yarl, is asking that the case be sealed. The logic here is that they believe that the negative attention is going to be significant and will not allow them to get a fair and impartial.
Anybody seeing the evidence of this case, Tom, whether you've heard of it or not. But anyway, we're going to show a quick video, and then we're going to pick it up on the backside of the video. Time to finish talking about it.
Let them roll.
Details are emerging about the elderly man accused of shooting a black teenager who rang his doorbell by mistake. Andrew Lester's ex-wife says he was prone to fits of rage, smashing objects in their home when he was angry.
Mary Clayton was married to Lester for 14 years and had 3 children with him. She says he had a history of violent behavior. And when she called the police, they told her he could do what he liked in his own house. She now lives in California and hasn't spoken to the retired airline mechanic for decades.
I was always scared of him. It doesn't surprise me what happened. And Lester's grandson, Clint Ludwig, is adding to the chilling profile. He told CNN's Don Lemon today that the 84-year-old expressed racist views and became obsessed with far-right conspiracy theories, including QAnon.
But I would push back on some of this stuff, and he couldn't handle being pushed back on. And at a certain point, we kind of lost touch.
Lester kept an arsenal of weapons and fitted his home with surveillance cameras, despite living in a low-crime neighborhood of Kansas City.
So we apologize for the video quality difficulty at the end. Tom, there's no way you could prejudice a jury pool against a person who is so clearly guilty. I mean, I just can't imagine anyone that's going to listen to this evidence and somehow find that this man did not act with reckless malice. When you start shooting just because someone rang your doorbell, there's no way you can. You got video cameras up, so you know this person is not breaking into your house. They're not stealing your property. There's no castle for you to protect because you're in no danger. You could have easily said, "Hey, you have the wrong house," without even opening the door. They were not trying to open the door. He was not shaking the handle. Just simply ringing the doorbell, Tom. And then, as the person's trying to get away, you shoot him. Come on, Tom. There's nothing. There's nothing. There's no way in the world you're going to prejudice the jury pool by telling this story and reporting the news, because there's no way this man can go into court and prove his innocence.
Well, Jimmy, let's keep our fingers, toes, and eyes crossed on this one. We will see what happens. And he's concerned about getting a fair jury. What kind of
everyone should get a fair trial.
What fairness did this young man get at your doorsteps?
Right.
Did he get fairness as to who's there? Did he get a fairness as to what can I do? What are you doing at my house? Before he shot him, and then shot him a second time in the head?
Second time, yeah, Tom. I can see if you were looking through the window, he was trying to open the door, kicking on the door, trying to break a window, stick the hand in and unlock a window. I could see if there was some attempt to invade your privacy. There'd be some mitigating circumstance out there that you could argue that that you could try to justify your actions. Tom, there is absolutely none in this case.
Yeah.
There is just, anybody, any DA, a junior DA should be able to go into court and win this case. This is a slam dunk. And I'm sorry, everybody's entitled to a fair trial, and he is also.
Okay,
I just can't imagine that anyone out there, 12 people are going to listen to this evidence, and that one of the 12 are going to say, "Yeah, I don't think he was guilty in what he did." This man is going to be convicted.
Let's hope so, Jimmy. And we want to welcome Ed Gray from the Commish Radio Show.
Yeah, it's a great radio show. I've listened to it a couple of times. Yeah, great show. Everybody go out there on Saturday and check out the radio show, the Commish. I highly recommend it.
Yep, he has a lot of interesting folks who are coming on the show. He kind of focuses on politics and is a local historian as well. So we want to thank Brother Gray for joining us and supporting us. And we ask that you do the same for his show as well. And since we did not start off our show by saying this, we want to make sure that if you have not already, make sure that you sign up for or subscribe to Black Men Speak.
Yes.
Of course, thank you for those who have joined us tonight. Make sure that you share this information. And of course, we ask that you invite anyone who you think would benefit from this information. But I also want to give another update on Ralph Yarl. It seems like the great Alicia Keys, the great songstress and musician Alicia Keys, has been gracious enough to invite him to one of her concerts and to meet her personally after the concert.
Yeah, that's great.
So, it is a great gesture on her behalf. Alicia Keys has always been a class act. I think among many of the artists that are out there, she has been authentic to herself, but in a very stylish and constructive way that I believe really sets the right tone with our younger and mature sisters out there. She ain't letting it all hang out. Alicia,
no, Tom, she carries herself very well.
She carries herself like the old school sisters
yes,
that we grew up with. And so we want to definitely give kudos to Alicia Keys for inviting him and actually, doing this quietly, not trying to make a big deal out of it, but trying to inject something positive as to what has happened to this young man and his family. And again, we continue to pray for him and his family.
Well, and plus the grandson, Yarl also apologized and wished him well. So it seemed like I don't know if that makes up for it, but that certainly just goes to show your family don't even stand behind what you've done. So I'm not sure how a jury is going to stand behind and justify what you've done. But also, Tom, we have one other announcement to make, a feel good story.
Okay.
Um, I don't know how many of our listeners and viewers are Fox News watchers, but recently Fox News and Tucker Carlson have separated, and he was their top anchor on the 7 o'clock.
Separated, Jimmy.
Well, he was fired. Well, he hasn't been fired yet. He's still in the contract, but he's been kicked off the show.
Okay. All right.
And so he's gonna be replaced. He's gonna be replaced with Lawrence Jones. Now, Lawrence Jones had a travel show where he traveled across America and would interview people in different places. So he's going to be taking over, which is a very big deal because the 7 o'clock slot, that's 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, that is Fox's most popular news segment where the most views come. That, I mean, they're highly cherished, you know. So for him to get that spot is a big deal. So we wish the brother luck in his pursuit. So just want to say congratulations to Lawrence Jones.
All right, good deal. Good deal. We have a couple of more stories, Jimmy, and then we will wrap this show up. Next, we will at least begin to talk about what's been happening for a couple of years now in Sudan, the conflict in Sudan, Jimmy. You know, there was a lot of, in the last several years, of the revolt and the change in the guard in Sudan. Former dictator Omar al-Bashir, who some of you, if you kind of follow geopolitical history, etc., let's just say it wasn't going so well for our brothers and sisters in Sudan.
No.
There was, of course, a lot of violence, a lot of what people call genocide in Sudan for several years. He is no longer the dictator there, and now there is seemingly a conflict and a fight and a struggle for power in the country of Sudan. And unfortunately for our mainstream news outlets, they've not really been paying any attention to this at all until just recently they had to evacuate American diplomats and our other folks from the United States. And all of a sudden, they're getting some play in the news when this has been going on.
No, Tom, but the Russians didn't evacuate their embassy or consulate, nor did the Chinese. So in both of those countries have committed to helping support either side or whatever faction is going to end up winning.
And we understand that they have strategic resources.
Oh yeah, Tom. The country is gold rich.
Yes,
they have some of the largest gold reserves in the world, plus other precious minerals. So we know why China and Russia, who both want the resources, are sticking it out. What I'm shocked and surprised is, Tom, is that America is not making more of an effort to help stabilize the environment and invest relationship-wise, so that if anyone's going to exploit you, it may as well be America. I'm just prejudiced that way. So you're going to get exploited one way or the other by world powers. So, we may as well throw our name in the hat also.
Well, maybe they've decided that they've been exploited enough by America and they'll try somebody else now.
Tom, as if the Russians and Chinese are going to be more benevolent.
I don't know if they are, but I guess if they've been hosed enough by the United States, it's like, let's try another exploiter, and maybe they'll be a little bit more covenant related in terms of actually giving us something to help our people. But
let's hope, Tom, that that this conflict ends quickly, and so we can reduce the number of people injured and dying over this conflict, and they can return to some kind of normalcy and good governance. Let's hope in the end that that's the outcome. But unfortunately, a lot of African nations are starting, and this has only happened, Tom, a lot of them have only received their freedom in the last 50, 60 years. Yeah. So they haven't had a long time, a long history to be free. So we have to be patient with them and understand that it's going to take a while for every country there to work its processes out and get to a point where they have somewhat freedom and they have people have some control over their government, and the government is responsible to the people.
And
So
what we would ask if we are giving advice to the heads of states of not just Sudan, but all of these other countries, as the Russias, as the Chinas, as the United States, as the Frances in Haiti, as the Great Britons are exploiting you of your mineral resources, exploiting you of your oil, exploiting you of everything that they're exploiting you of. Maybe you should consider ensuring that in what you are sharing with other resources goes beyond the coffers of your immediate loved ones and families and to the people of that country, so that they can build economy, so they can build infrastructure, so they can build military power, so they can protect themselves and are not at the beck and call of Western countries and or Western philosophies under the guise of democracy that does nothing but exploit the people and the resources of those countries just for the enrichment of a few.
Well, Tom, I'm going to take a little bit of a different view. So it's almost like being in jail. If you're not strong enough to protect yourself, then you're going to find you a really big person that can do it. So you're going to have to partner with someone. So it's just a matter of who you're going to partner with, because you're going to need a trading partner. For them to have a lot of minerals, but they can't sell it on the market, does them no good. But spending your resources trading gold and resources for guns and bullets is no good also. We need schools, you need hospitals, you need roads, you need other infrastructure, you need power plants. You need to be able to improve the quality of life for your people. So I hope that whoever they ultimately decide is going to be their trading partner, that they use the wealth that's generated from their resources to do something positive for the people.
Well, at the end of the day,
Unfortunately, Tom, there's no power, Western power, and even China's Eastern power, that is going to give you a fair shake in today's. So you're going to have to pick the less of the evil and partner with them and hope that you can rebuild. But but you're going to have to partner with someone. So
maybe they should start partnering with themselves and stop allowing the Western powers to exploit them, dividing.
well, they have to sell the resources to someone, Tom.
I understand that, but actually, some of that selling can go internally to the other 53 countries in the continent of Africa, so they can start building and doing for themselves and not being so dependent on other people. I understand, now that, and we'll talk about this in some other story. India, I think, is now about to become the largest country in the world by population. You got China, you got the United States, you got the other Western powers. The key is build for self and your countrymen and your countrywomen first, and then dole out the rest of that, because you're not going to be able to protect yourself by being dependent.
All right, Tom, you better watch yourself. That sounds like a MAGA philosophy.
No, that's not
So
a MAGA.
look out for your country first. I think that's what you were kind of intimating there. Look out for your country first, no matter where you
that's
are.
what you call common sense, Jimmy. But
So are you saying that MAGA is common sense, Tom?
No,
Oh man, we got a convert right here. Tom,
we're a whole different story.
We're on social media. We got a convert person.
No, sir.
You can't take it back now, Tom.
No,
we know that you are a closet Trump supporter and a MAGA. I'm gonna get you a MAGA hat.
No.
So
no.
Y'all heard it here. He was actually advocating the MAGA philosophy.
No, I'm going to know. That's what we call Marcus Garvey. Africa for Africans. Marcus Garvey. Africa for Africans.
It sounds like the MAGA philosophy to me, Tom. Look out for your own first. Yeah. So anyway,
and
we're out of time.
Let's do this last story. What's
the last story?
The very last story is we want to give some kudos to a father and a mother at Jackson State University. Both of them.
They graduated together.
Yes, they graduated together.
Congratulations.
Dominique and Faith Bigpen, father-daughter, just graduated from Jackson State. Faith graduated with a biology degree. Her father, Dominique, received a master's degree in educational administration and supervision, and they are not done yet. So we want to say kudos to Dominique and Faith. kudos to Jackson State,
Yes.
and let's support our HBCUs.
And that just goes to show, Tom, it's never too late. So to
Yes.
improve yourself. With that being said, we wish to see everyone back next week. Oh, Tom, we got another big announcement. You have to come back next week for certain. We have a really great giveaway that we're going to be doing. Some travel free hotel stays. So in order to get a chance, you have to come back next week to hear about it.
All right.
So with that being said, we'll see everyone next week. Same time, same.
Have a great week.